same towers. We then create rate plans designed for your usage. The fact is, we can offer you an unlimited plan with the same network quality for less because we understand how you use wireless services. Our plans start at just $20 a month. And forget trying to chat with robots. You'll get 100% US-based award-winning customer service when you need help. Come find out how wireless should be and join the millions who've made the switch.
Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com/facts. Plans include $5 credit for auto pay and e-billing. See site for additional facts.
Hey parents, you don't need the latest gizmo, slang, or clothes to be a perfect parent, because kids in foster care don't need perfection. They need you. For more information on how you can adopt, go to adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt Us Kids, and the Ad Council.
You're locked into Money Matters Radio, 1120 AM WBNW. This is the Money Matters Radio Network, WBNW 1120 AM and W275CM FM, Concord, Boston, the Money Matters Radio Network.
Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. When it comes to legacy planning, having a will is important, but it may not be enough. A will only covers probate assets, and the probate process can be slow, public, and expensive. That's where trusts come in. Trusts can help you avoid probate, keep your wishes private, and control how and when your assets are distributed. Whether you're looking to support family, minimize taxes, or prepare for the unexpected, a well-designed plan can make a meaningful difference. Our new free guide, Leaving a Lasting Legacy, covers wills, trusts, and other strategies to help you build a strong retirement plan. Take the first step towards clarity by calling 800-393-4001 right now and asking for your free guide today. That number again is 800-393-4001 or request it online at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
As a busy mom, my to-do list is full.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
Visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
New Englanders love the Caribbean, and now there's a Caribbean travel channel available for you to learn all about Caribbean culture while you're planning your next trip to your favorite island. The TravelShareIt.com marketplace is loaded with information about the arts, festivals, food, and music throughout the Caribbean, and is an interactive website featuring daily travel deals to any island of your choice. Book your next Caribbean vacation on the most comprehensive travel channel for the islands, TravelShareIt.com. That's TravelShareIt.com.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. We focus on the people returning from service, not their specific illness or injury. Our number one goal is to make sure our veterans have the necessary services they need, be it physical, emotional, or financial, so that their transition can be seamless. You can help our great American heroes as well by making a donation today by visiting dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutsky from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with your Financial Exchange Quick Tip of the Day. And today we're talking about your new guide, Todd, demystifying the top 7 estate planning trusts. If there are younger families out there, should they consider having a trust in place, and what type?
Most people don't think about it when you're young, but if you're a young family, meaning you've got minor children, you might not have a ton of assets yet, but you want to make sure that what you do have is protected for your children. You could probably use a revocable trust. I don't think you need an irrevocable trust, but a revocable trust. You put your assets in. Again, they're going to avoid probate. Again, it may or may not be a big estate tax issue at the moment, but whatever you have, your children can own. right? They are minors. So you don't necessarily want to leave your assets to a guardian and have the guardian deal with everything when you can design a trust to hold the assets and ensure how and when and where and why they get these assets. Just pick the right trustee, put the language you need in the trust to control it for those children, and the trust will accomplish that task. So just because you're young, folks, doesn't mean you shouldn't think about your estate planning. Sometimes it's not all about the money and the probate and the taxes, but more so about the family behind the estate plan.
The estate planning experts at Cushing & Dolan have been helping families like yours for more than 30 years, and they have written a brand new guide called Demystifying the Top 7 Estate Planning Trusts. Call right now for your free copy, 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699, or you can request it from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Marc Fandetti. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Marc Fandetti.
Chuck, Mark, and Tucker with you here today, and not a ton in the way of major economic data. We got some mortgage applications data that came through. Not really a major shift. Mortgage purchase applications up about 1.5%, so a little bit of a move in the positive direction given the 0.25% move down that we've seen in interest rates over the last couple of weeks, but not a huge shift in terms of what we're seeing for mortgage demand at the moment. All eyes today are really going to be focused on Nvidia earnings after the bell, and so we're obviously going to talk about that quite a bit tomorrow. We'll preview some of that today too, but our top story to kick things off today continues to be the Federal Reserve and questions surrounding its independence in the future, with President Trump seeking to remove Cook from her position as one of the governors of the Fed board. So, Mark, this sets the stage for Lyle Brainerd, who's a former vice chair of the Fed. She occupied a position on the Board of Governors from 2014 through 2023 and was the vice chair. Was just the last 3 years of her term. I can't remember how long she served in that particular role, but I think it was the last 2 or 3 years of her term, somewhere in that range. And basically, she lays out a number of concerns that she has regarding the potential independence of the Fed going forward, and concern that a Fed with greater control by the executive branch would not be able to conduct policy as effectively, something we've talked about quite a bit.
Yeah, the most important thing for the Federal Reserve is credibility, believability that they will squash inflation when the time comes, or that they will not try to exploit the short-term trade-off between unexpected inflation, which the Fed can generate. The Fed can tell the public we're going to be laser focused on inflation, and we're going to grow the money supply modestly. And then when the public sets expectations and prices and wages based on that commitment, the Fed can renege. It can cheat. So
Sure.
but if the public knows the Fed will renege, it will in turn not believe it. A lot
It'll
of the
front
modeling,
run that decision.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of the modeling, a lot of the changes in the thinking about monetary policy that came out of the experience of the 1970s focus on that issue of commitment and the timing of the commitment and the role that expectations play. And it all boils down to a word you're going to be hearing a lot from commentators over the next, I think, probably few years, given the direction that things are going in here, is credibility. Credibility makes it easier for the Fed to control inflation, prevent it from getting going. It also makes it easier for the Fed to bring inflation down when it inevitably has to without economic pain, and it's credibility, Chuck, that's at risk right now.
And the big thing is, look, for the better part of the last 40 years, up until 2021 and 22, the United States did not see any meaningful rise in inflation. It moved along pretty consistently at somewhere around a 2.5% clip. Some years it was a little bit higher, some years it was a little bit lower, but it was pretty well anchored there. And so the Fed really didn't need to use that credibility very often, or very strongly at least, because there were really rare instances where inflation actually crept up to the point where there were potential problems there. And in most of them, it was due to transitory, items, largely because of energy. The early 1990s with the first Gulf War, the mid to late 2000s, call it that 2007 period, where actually it was 2008, where during that summer, right before the financial crisis, I still remember oil prices jumped up to $149 a barrel, which is still the highest that we have ever seen on record. But the Fed, rightly at that time looked through and was like, no, there's some real problems brewing, elsewhere. I don't think we need to be hiking because of, oil prices moving up this summer. I think we're good on that. So the Fed hasn't really had to act strongly in order to enforce that credibility.
Because of it, yeah.
And this is something that if anyone has any friends that live in, I think the best example of this is probably Brazil. Just like everyone likes to point to, like Argentina as a country that has, failed banking systems on a number of occasions. Brazil's an example of one where today I think you can point to it and pretty much say, look, it's very much still an emerging market. It still is the Wild West when it comes to a number of different things. But the central bank there and largely the presidency understands, hey, we need to let the central banker do their thing, and they need to act quickly in response to any inflationary threat, because if you don't stamp it out quickly, you run into real problems. And this is not to say that the U.S. is going to turn into, Brazil. It's more just, hey, banks that have to deal with inflationary threats on a regular basis, they act strongly in order to maintain that credibility, because otherwise they do become Argentina. That's kind of how things go.
Yeah, that's right.
And so I think the place that we continue to look at this from is one where, hey, the Fed is by no means a perfect institution. You can want to reform the Fed in any number of different ways, and we could talk about some of those in terms of, hey, how do we make the Fed more accountable to Congress or the court system or any, potential third-party review that allows them to operate more effectively, but consolidating the power of money supply within the executive branch is a real problem, not because of any one particular president, but because of you don't know who could be president in the future and the actions that they may take as an individual that larger, more balanced institutions might not undertake.
Yeah, we got to this point because of the cumulative experience of past generations here and elsewhere with every possible monetary arrangement. Hey, let's let the king clip coins. What could go wrong? And right on down the line, from ancient times to the present, it's every goofy scheme to goose the economy in the short run has been tried. It has invariably resulted in rapidly increasing prices, in some cases, in an extreme version, so-called hyperinflation, which is technically, people use that casually to mean like high inflation. It actually means something like 1,000% a month, and there have only been exactly. So every goofball scheme that you can think of to goose the economy in the short run for political benefit has ended in tears. High inflation, turmoil, societal convulsions, which is why we got to the point we're at today.
And there's a very good reason why you don't want the person, or more appropriately, people who determine monetary policy to be running for office. It's very simple. Hey, who are you going to vote for? Oh, I'm going to vote for the guy who's going to lower interest rates. Is that the right thing to do? I don't know, but it's going to help my mortgage be more affordable.
Yeah, right.
Dumb comparison, but when I was in 7th grade, I ran for class treasurer. And, I got into finance early, obviously. I was like, oh, yeah, this is going to be it. And my campaign slogan was really simple. It was dollars for donuts. Not dollars to donuts, but dollars for donuts. Because my whole campaign was, hey, I'm going to take, the class treasury, and I'm going to use it to buy donuts for ourselves. We're going to have donuts, once a week. You know what happened, Mark? We ran out of money.
Diabetes?
Well, these are 7th graders,
Oh, yeah, sorry.
We ran out of money very early in the year because it turns out that you don't have just unlimited money in these things. Now, when you're the Federal Reserve, you do have unlimited money, which gives you the idea that, hey, like, I can do things that no one else can, and it's true that you can. But as Spider-Man says, with great power comes great responsibility. And if you don't act responsibly with that money that you have there, you end up with all kinds of problems in terms of either inflation or people out of work. So there's a good reason why you don't want to have someone running for Fed chair as, a publicly elected position. And if the executive branch is able to assert that control over the Fed, it pretty much turns the president then into the elected head of monetary policy, which is really dangerous because what president would ever vote for higher interest rates? Comparison. Do you ever see any presidents successfully campaign on, I'm going to raise your taxes?
Successfully? Clinton may have, he ran as a fiscal and governed as a fiscal conservative, but your taxes, speaking to the middle, no.
No, I mean, look, it
doesn't work.
People do
well,
not.
Well, Mondale said it, and we know what happened to Walter Mondale.
How long was he president for?
Right. And there were other factors there, of course. But
correct. But the big thing is, no one is ever going to run and campaign, hey, I'm going to raise borrowing rates. But ultimately, that's something that still sometimes needs to be done. And if you have a captive Fed to the presidency, it presents real risks that inflation gets out of hand in the long run because it's not a competent and not a credible institution then, because everyone looks at it and says, okay, whatever the president wants, they're going to get, and who knows what future presidents may want, but it's usually going to be lower interest rates. And that's not always the thing that you need. Mm-hmm. Kind of like donuts.
I think last few years have been years of relearning old lessons in monetary theory and good policy, and I think we have to relearn the lesson of why Fed independence is important for economic stability.
And the problem is it doesn't matter until it does. You could look at the last 40 years and say, okay, the Fed didn't really need to do much during that time, and it's true. But when it does matter, boy, it's important. And also, you can't look at the last 40 years and definitively say, hey, if the Fed had looser policy, things would have been the same. Maybe you would have had a resurgence in inflation. Maybe that credibility would have been shot.
Well,
we don't know.
It almost certainly would have been. The credibility itself is what prevented inflation. Most researchers think, not everybody, but most think it's the credibility itself that kept expectations under control and inflation as a consequence under control.
Let's take a bit of a break here. When we come back, we're talking India right after this.
Find daily interviews and full shows of the Financial Exchange on our YouTube page. Subscribe to our page and get caught up on anything and everything you might have missed. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Artificial intelligence is changing the way companies invest and how markets move. Add to that global trends like international outperformance, a weakening dollar, and shifting bond yields, and you've got a complex landscape for investors. This is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and we're hosting 2 financial seminars this fall to help you understand what it all means. Join us at Margaritaville Resort, Cape Cod on October 9th, or at the Showcase Superlux in Chestnut Hill on October 16th. Call 800-393-4001 to reserve your seat. We'll talk about how diversification and preparation may help you navigate uncertainty so your plan is ready. Don't miss this chance to get a clearer picture of your financial future. Register today by calling 800-393-4001 or on our website, armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. A trust isn't just a document. It's a powerful tool that can help protect your assets from the nursing home and even reduce or eliminate estate taxes. Cushing & Dolan are leaders in elder law, estate planning, and asset protection. This month, they're offering a free guide called Demystifying the Top 7 Estate Planning Trusts. This guide breaks down the most common types of trusts, explains the pros and cons of each, and helps you understand which might be right for you and your family. Trusts come with different rules, benefits, and tax treatment, and choosing the wrong one could cost you. Learning the differences now can help you make smarter decisions for your future and your loved ones. Trusts are a critical part of any well-designed estate plan, but they can be complex. Don't guess your way through it. Get the facts first. Call Cushing & Dolan now at 866-848-5699 to request your free copy, or visit LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Hi, this is Chuck Zodda from the Armstrong Advisory Group. If you have an IRA, it's critical to understand the tax rules that may affect your family as you plan for retirement. Current law requires most non-spouse beneficiaries to withdraw the full balance of an inherited IRA within 10 years, which may lead to higher taxes and reduced value over time. If beneficiary designations are outdated or incorrect, they could possibly override your will and change how your assets are distributed. That's why we're offering a new guide called Leaving a Lasting Legacy, a resource to help you better understand inherited IRAs and other legacy planning topics that could affect your future. Make an informed choice and take control of your plan. Call 800-393-4001 and ask for your free guide today. That's 800-393-4001 or request your copy online at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Let's talk LDL. AKA bad cholesterol. The higher your LDL cholesterol, the higher your risk of a heart attack or stroke. Your health matters. Know your number. Talk to your doctor and get your cholesterol checked. And learn how to help lower your LDL bad cholesterol. Because your health is in your hands. Find out more at heart.org/LDL.
As a busy mom to 4 kids, my to-do list is full.
Trying to fit in exercise, eating right, and prioritizing self-care can feel next to impossible.
While we can't add more hours to the day, we do have a great resource to help.
Go Red for Women has easy tips, tools, and information to help you and your family live a healthier life.
So to all the moms, the aunts, the grandmothers, and amazing women out there doing it all,
visit goredforwomen.org/momlife today.
You take care of them, Go Red for Women will take care of you.
Breaking business news as it happens, only here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
This segment of the Financial Exchange is brought to you in part by the U.S. Virgin Islands Department of Tourism. 3 stunning islands, St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John, all just a quick flight away. No passport required, just sunshine, soft sand, and that warm island vibe. Craving a break? Well, plan your fall escape now and experience the beauty of America's Caribbean, the U.S. Virgin Islands. Book today at visitusvi.com. That's visitusvi.com.
Piece in the Wall Street Journal today talking about the fact that the additional 25% tariff on Indian imports goes into effect today, making the effective tariff rate on Indian imports 50%. This additional 25%, ostensibly due to India purchasing oil from Russia in large quantities, which does raise the question, okay, if it's really about that, why are you not instituting something similar on China, who also purchases quite a bit of Russian oil? Which means that it's probably not actually about the Russian oil. It's probably about something else that the U.S. wants in this relationship and in this deal. But what exactly that is, I have things I can speculate on. But ultimately, if this stays in place, you've got almost $90 billion in goods that India exports to the United States, about $60 billion of which will be subject to these new taxes.
Yeah, like you said, we don't know what the motive or the end game is here. What's he playing at? In the short term, geopolitically, not my area of expertise, if I have such a thing, it seems to be foolhardy. It's pushing India closer to our strategic foes, Russia and perhaps China.
I don't really buy that.
Okay,
though. Just because India and China do not like each other very much.
Yeah, well, they can't. They share a border. I mean, the basic geostrategic considerations suggest they should be adversaries.
Correct.
Whereas we should not naturally be adversaries with India or even China. Our interests are too far. Russia. Unless Russia invades Europe, and then we do have skin in the game. Anyway, I think way out of my league here. But my point is that we could probably use their help against China. It seems foolish in the short term, but you say there may be ulterior, hidden, more sophisticated motives, and we just have to let this kind of play out.
I think there are, and here's the thing. So Indian President Narendra Modi and President Trump generally have shared a pretty good relationship historically. Beyond that, Vice President Vance went out to India, I think it was in maybe February or March of this year, and reportedly had a good visit there as well. And so I think, you have two presidents who have generally gotten along pretty well during their tenures in office. The other thing that I look at is, India is a potential natural bulwark against China when you look at a combination of two things. Number one, the region that they occupy geographically, and number two, just the sheer number of people that you have there that could potentially be, an economic engine that helps to power, the non-China aligned world.
Yeah.
The problem that you do have, I think you have a few different problems. And the question is, which one of these are we trying to solve here, trying to, figure out how do we, be part of the solution on? The first is, when you look at, if you talk to anyone who's actually worked in India with manufacturing, which is really what this is about. It's about trying to replace some of China's manufacturing capacity. One thing that China does really well is they will quite literally clear the road for you with whatever you want. And I mean that literally and figuratively. You go to China and you say, hey, I need X number of workers in this location with these specs and blah, blah, blah. And they say, great, we'll bulldoze all the houses that were there before. Here are the workers that you... I'm not saying this is good for human rights or the population. It's just, no, this is what they do. And if you're a U.S. investor that doesn't care about any of the other stuff, you're like, okay, great, this is just what I need, even though there's some pretty horrendous implications from it, obviously. India does not do that first and foremost. Beyond that, the sheer level of just organization and coordination inside of India, it's really messy. It's just things are not particularly well organized. You have all kinds of different divisions in terms of just how things operate from one part of India to the other. It's just not something where you have tremendous uniformity in what you get from manufacturers in different parts of the country and regulations and laws and things like that. It's very much a patchwork. I don't get the sense that we're really trying to solve that because I don't think we really care, quite honestly.
It's deeply embedded for historical reasons, right? China was an empire. It had an imperial structure, bureaucracy for millennia. India was a bunch of principalities.
Correct.
Is that... Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're not going to change that, right? That's deeply embedded.
And I don't think we would want to. I don't think that's what's afoot here. What I do think is at play here is, even though India and China don't really get along particularly well, the economic ties have deepened in recent years, and in particular, there is a big threat that India could be used for transshipments from China to try to skirt different tariffs and other regulations and things like that about U.S. imports. And I think there's some meat on that bone there, just based on what I see from other countries around it. The Russian oil thing, maybe at the margins is actually a thing, but again, if that were actually the main driving force here, there are plenty of other countries that import Russian oil as well, the biggest one being China, and there is no additional 25% tariff being levied on China today.
You're right. I think you're absolutely right. Trump doesn't care about Russia. He's not sanctioning the shadow fleet. He's not trying to attach their assets. He keeps threatening serious, severe consequences if Russia doesn't do this or that in 2 weeks or some arbitrary time frame. None of it's been followed through on. I think you're probably right, Chuck.
So there's something else afoot here. Exactly what it is, I don't know, but we'll continue to watch this, and I'm not sure that these stick around too long necessarily. Quick break here. When we return, it's Wall Street Watch and Ask Todd.
Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @TFE Show. Breaking business news is always first, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. New Englanders love the Caribbean, and now there's a Caribbean travel channel available for you to learn all about Caribbean culture while you're planning your next trip to your favorite island. The TravelShareIt.com marketplace is loaded with information about the arts, festivals, food, and music throughout the Caribbean, and is an interactive website featuring daily travel deals to any island of your choice. Book your next Caribbean vacation on the most comprehensive travel channel for the islands, TravelShareIt.com. That's TravelShareIt.com.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. We focus on the people returning from service, not their specific illness or injury. Our number one goal is to make sure our veterans have the necessary services they need, be it physical, emotional, or financial, so that their transition can be seamless. You can help our great American heroes as well by making a donation today by visiting dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
Sometimes we know what's next. Other times, it's impossible to know. Life can change in an instant. Don't be caught standing by the next time someone's heart stops. Knowing CPR gives you the ability to act and takes you from bystander to lifesaver. CPR is a life-saving skill. Join the nation of lifesavers today by learning CPR at heart.org/nation. National support for CPR education provided by Elevance Health Foundation.
Are you over the age of 50? Want peace of mind and financial security for your family? Here's an important message to you from Senior Care USA. The average funeral now costs over $10,000. That leaves your loved ones the burden of paying your debts and funeral costs. Our plans start as low as $1 per day and will pay your family up to $30,000 to help pay for your funeral and other expenses. There are no medical exams. Your rates will never increase, and your plan cannot be canceled, regardless of your medical conditions, as long as you make your premium payments. Get up to $30,000 in final expense insurance. Call now for free information. Just answer a few simple questions and get approved right over the phone in just a few minutes. Call right now.
Call 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. That's 800-378-3818.
Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and we have a new guide available this month titled Leaving a Lasting Legacy. Mike, when it comes to naming beneficiaries on different accounts, what's the thought process that people should be starting with?
Well, first and foremost would be probably you want to do it. I know that seems so basic, but Chuck, I mean, how frequently do we run into this where forget about your investment accounts. Usually those are getting looked at. Your 401k, it's one of the first things you get asked. But I run into people every day that don't realize they can have beneficiary designations on bank accounts, for instance. And what an easy way to avoid frustration after you're gone.
Can you talk a little bit about how much time and effort that can save someone after a loved one passes away when it comes to being able to inherit assets quickly?
Anyone that's been through probate will know the answer to this, but these things can last a year, and it doesn't matter if it's a $5 million estate, obviously that's pretty complicated, but a $10,000 checking account could also need to go through probate, and it could take an equal amount of time depending on the complexities involved. And so there are a lot of benefits that are out there when it comes to just utilizing the tools that are made available to you, and beneficiaries is a big one.
Folks, the guide is titled Leaving a Lasting Legacy, and the way to request it is by calling 800-393-4001. Again, the guide is titled Leaving a Lasting Legacy. It discusses beneficiary designations and a whole lot more. And the way to request it again is by calling 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Time now for Wall Street Watch, a complete look at what's moving markets so far today, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Markets edging higher and mostly quiet ahead of the massive earnings report from chip maker and AI giant Nvidia due out after today's closing bell. Right now, the Dow is up by about 0.25% or 116 points higher. S&P 500 is up 0.2%. NASDAQ is up just over 0.1% or 33 points higher. Russell 2000 is up nearly 0.4%. 10-year Treasury yield up 2 basis points at 4.281%. And crude oil up about 0.2% higher or $63.68 a barrel. Coal's jumping nearly 20% after the retailer surpassed street earnings and revenue expectations for the second quarter, despite its sales declining and its ongoing search for a new CEO. Kohl's also reported a better than anticipated full-year sales guidance. Another retailer in Abercrombie & Fitch also reported earnings where its sales growth slowed. During the quarter, Abercrombie sales slumped 5%, while comparable sales dropped 11%. However, sales from its Hollister brand grew 19% in the quarter. Abercrombie, that stock is up by almost 2%. Meanwhile, CNBC reporting that the controlling shareholder of Canada Goose, Bain Capital, received bids to take the company private, valuing the retailer at about $1.35 billion. Canada Goose shares are jumping 15% on that news. Elsewhere, Okta shares climbing 4% after the identity security company posted higher quarterly results and raised its annual guidance. Database platform developer MongoDB surging 32% after it beat analysts' estimates, and after controversy surrounding its new logo, Cracker Barrel reverted back to its original old-timer logo, resulting in that stock rebounding by 7% today. I'm Tucker Silva, and that is Wall Street Watch.
This is Ask Todd on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. If you have an existing estate plan or are in the market for one, Todd Lutsky is here to answer your questions and help you plan for later life. Ask Todd is presented by Cushing & Dolan, serving Massachusetts and New England for more than 35 years, helping families with estate and tax planning, Medicaid planning, and probate law. Visit CushingDolan.com. Now, here's Todd Lutsky.
As promised, we're now joined by Todd Lutsky from Cushing & Dolan. We've got the phone lines open and room for your calls about your estate plan. That's why we call the segment Ask Todd, because you get to ask Todd your questions live on air right now. Phone number is 888-205-2263. Again, that is 888-205-2263. So make sure you call early and often, because we usually only get through 2 or 3 calls with Todd in any particular day. That number again is 888-205-2263. Again, it's 888-205-2263. Mr. Lutsky, how are you doing today?
I am never better. How about you?
I'm good.
Yeah?
I saw over the weekend, actually, that the Navy, they're training dolphins to carry first aid kits.
Really?
Medicinal purposes only.
That's good.
Yeah.
I like
so
that.
it's exciting news. Todd, I want to talk to you a little bit about trusts and beneficiaries. Can you talk a little bit about Are there any benefits to using a trust to name beneficiaries for assets as opposed to simply naming them directly on an account?
So there's obviously different kinds of trusts that we have to deal with when we talk about this, but and certain things that will go into trust and certain things that won't. So first of all, an IRA would generally not go into trust, period. So I wouldn't even do it because you have a big tax problem.
What about naming a trust as a beneficiary of an IRA?
And that's where I was headed. So you can't change the owner, and I think this is important. Owner versus beneficiary is what you're asking me. For an IRA, I would say, based on the kind of planning you're doing. So if you're trying to, do it, married couple, or trying to ultimately get your IRA to your kids, the next generation, and maybe protect it from nursing home, not from nursing homes, but protecting it from your kids' future creditors, future divorces, passing it down to a generation even below the children, tax-free. So if you're looking to do all of those things, then the designated beneficiary, always primary is spouse, so always start with that. The primary should be the spouse from an income tax perspective, and the contingent could be the trust. So while you cannot put an IRA in the trust while you're alive, you can get it there when you die. So the beneficiary could be named that. Now, for non-IRA assets...
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Pros and cons of that approach. What are the good things you get from doing that? What are the bad things that happen from doing that?
If the goal is to protect the IRA, let's say you got like $2-3 million IRA.
Sure.
That's big money, right? So we want to make sure that it's protected from the kids' future divorces, creditors, and generation skipping. Then there is no negative. Why? Because one, I want it not going outright to the kids, because then all bets are off as to what happens to it. I want it getting into the trust. Is there, and I think what you're driving at, Chuck, is there a tax problem doing that? And as long as the trust is designed to hold the IRA asset, which it should be, the required minimum distributions is what we talk about and what we care about from an income tax perspective. These required minimum distributions, if I name the children outright, is 10 years, generally speaking. There's some exceptions. If I name the trust the beneficiary and the kids are beneficiaries inside the trust, it still comes out over 10 years. But it doesn't come out to the kid. That's the difference.
Sure.
The required minimum distribution is still reaching into the IRA, pulling it out, subjecting that withdrawal to income taxes, but it goes to the trust. Now, I guess there could be a tax difference. If the amount that goes to the trust remains in the trust and doesn't come out to the kids, it could be taxed at the trust level, which would be a higher rate than kids or human levels. Let's put it that way. So, but again, if I'm trying to protect it, I still want to make that distribution, because every year I can decide whether I make a distribution or not. If someone's going through a divorce, we're going to let it build up inside the trust. But if I don't have a problem, allow the distribution to come out and let the kid pay the tax.
Talking with Todd Lutsky. If you've got estate planning questions, this is your chance to ask them to Todd live on air right now. Phone number is 888-205-2263. That number again is 888-205-2263. We're going to take a quick break here, but when we return, we're going to get right to your questions with Todd. That phone number is 888-205-2263. One last time, 888-205-2263.
Ask Todd with Todd Lutsky every Wednesday at 10:30, only here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. The holidays are just around the corner, so now's the time to plan your winter escape. Trade in the cold for sunshine, sea breezes, and island vibes in the U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean paradise. Whether it's a romantic retreat, a family celebration, or a solo recharge before the new year, St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John offer the ultimate warm weather getaway. Lounge on sun-drenched beaches, explore vibrant culture, and celebrate the holidays island style. No passport, no hassle. Just warm weather, clear blue water, and unforgettable memories. This is where the stress melts away and you find yourself naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. Go to visitusvi.com and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com. The U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean paradise. Your holiday escape starts here at visitusvi.com. A trust isn't just a document. It's a powerful tool that can help protect your assets from the nursing home and even reduce or eliminate estate taxes. Cushing & Dolan are leaders in elder law, estate planning, and asset protection. This month, they're offering a free guide called Demystifying the Top 7 Estate Planning Trusts. This guide breaks down the most common types of trusts, explains the pros and cons of each, and helps you understand which might be right for you and your family. Trusts come with different rules, benefits, and tax treatment, and choosing the wrong one could cost you. Learning the differences now can help you make smarter decisions for your future and your loved ones. Trusts are a critical part of any well-designed estate plan, but they can be complex. Don't guess your way through it. Get the facts first. Call Cushing & Dolan now at 866-848-5699 to request your free copy or visit LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. New Englanders love the Caribbean, and now there's a Caribbean travel channel available for you to learn all about Caribbean culture while you're planning your next trip to your favorite island. The TravelShareIt.com marketplace is loaded with information about the arts, festivals, food, and music throughout the Caribbean, and is an interactive website featuring daily travel deals to any island of your choice. Book your next Caribbean vacation on the most comprehensive travel channel for the islands, TravelShareIt.com. That's TravelShareIt.com.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. We focus on the people returning from service, not their specific illness or injury. Our number one goal is to make sure our veterans have the necessary services they need, be it physical, emotional, or financial, so that their transition can be seamless. You can help our great American heroes as well by making a donation today by visiting dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Sometimes we know what's next. Other times, it's impossible to know. Life can change in an instant. Don't be caught standing by the next time someone's heart stops. Knowing CPR gives you the ability to act and takes you from bystander to lifesaver. CPR is a life-saving skill. Join the nation of lifesavers today by learning CPR at heart.org/nation. National support for CPR education provided by Elevance Health Foundation.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESI is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
Todd Lutsky answers your questions about estate and elder life planning every Wednesday at 10:30, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Talking with Todd Lutsky from Cushing & Dolan. If you've got a question to ask Todd, still room on the phone lines, 888-205-2263. That number again is 888-205-2263. Todd, when we talk about beneficiaries and how, families might think about them, when it comes to revocable versus irrevocable trusts, any difference there in terms of how beneficiaries may or may not be treated, or is it pretty much the exact same?
So I think it's probably the same. Let's run through it, though. It's always better to sort of understand how that works. So if I've got a revocable trust and I want to put stuff in it, my first comment is I'm going to probably put everything in, except IRAs, of course. Always. We already talked about IRAs. They don't go in. So I would change on an investment account, brokerage account, a bank account, a CD. I don't care what it is. I don't see why I wouldn't just put it all in there. When I say put it in there, I mean change the owner I don't need to change the beneficiary anymore. And the reason I don't is because once it's in the trust will dictate where everything goes when you die. And that's great. That's what I want to have happen. And I don't have to worry. And this is why sometimes people say, well, I'll just put one kid on one account, one kid on another account. And, but you don't know which account's going to grow faster than another. And you don't know if that's going to end up in unequal treatment. I don't want that. Plus, I want to control it. I can't really control it by naming beneficiaries. So I would retitle it, changing the owner on those accounts to the name of the revocable trust. Now, similarly, with an irrevocable trust, if I wanted to fund it, I would do the same thing. I would change the owner on these items to the irrevocable trust. The difference is what I put in. Before, with the revocable, I'm likely to put everything in. With an irrevocable, I'm probably not going to do that. I always want to leave some stuff out, some access, direct access to assets outside of these irrevocable Medicaid trusts. So I leave some stuff out. And the other reason I leave some stuff out is especially my bank account that receives my direct deposit, Social Security or pension. Because remember, when I'm talking about Medicaid trusts, I'm talking about people that are probably retired.
Sure. You're not talking about 30-year-olds generally going that route.
Right.
There's no need to.
No need to. You wouldn't be thinking about it, right? So these are generally folks that are either retiring, close to retirement, etc., and more on a fixed income. So you never want to put in that main operating bank account into a Medicaid irrevocable trust like you would with a revocable, because you get these checks every month, whether it's pension, Social Security. If it was owned by the irrevocable Medicaid trust, every single time it goes in there, it's a new 5-year waiting period for Medicaid, because you've added new money. People don't think about that, but I actually had someone who came to me. We didn't do the planning, but they were going on trying to apply for Medicaid, and they came in, and I saw this when we were going through the application process. I'm like, what are all these deposits? And they said, oh, it's our Social Security and pension. I'm like, oh, you're going to have a big problem here. So for years, we had to go back and count everything that went in there to figure out what the amount of the deposits were to get them out. To basically cure the problem. I said, you're never going to be eligible for Medicaid because this ongoing 5-year waiting period is every single month.
It just keeps going, yeah.
It keeps extending it out, right?
Sure.
And so we had to go back and undo all that and fix it to cure all that money back into their personal name, to eliminate the waiting period and then deal with the money that's outside the trust to get them eligible for Medicaid. So I think that's the biggest difference between the two.
Just digging in on that, it seemed like that seems like obviously kind of a big problem in an estate plan. What other kinds of things do you see as being really common? If someone comes to you and says, oh, hey, like I've done my estate plan, like I think I'm all ready to go. Do you see an issue with this? What other common ones do you typically see that cause problems for people?
Oh, common questions, like, so an example would be
not even common questions, like things where someone thinks they're doing things right.
Right. Okay.
And then you look at it, and you're like, no, do you realize what you've done here?
Yeah, I see. So an example like that would be, and again, partly this is where the guide comes in, right? We want to figure out what trust is right for you. I've had people come in and say to me, okay, so-and-so's going into the nursing home, and, we know all about the 5-year waiting period, so we're all set because my mom, she did the planning years ago, and again, to your point, Chuck, we think we did it right. And then I sit down and I say, great, give me a copy of the trust. That's going to be a real helpful to us, and let's start figuring out how we can apply for Medicaid. And then I look at the top of the trust, and I see it's the Tom Smith Revocable Trust. Okay, you didn't do it right. You did revocable trust planning right.
Sure.
But you didn't do nursing home planning right, because the 5-year waiting period never begins to run on assets in a revocable trust. So that would be an example of somebody who thinks they did it right and they didn't. But folks, that's what this guide is about this month, right? As we approach the end of the month, this is the top 7 estate planning trusts. The ones I think are used most frequently, and some of them most frequently misunderstood. Like, it starts with the nominee realty trust. What is that? It's not even really a trust. You'll learn when you get the guide. Revocable trusts and irrevocable trusts. We just talked about two with you, Chuck, about Medicaid and revocable trust. Well, there's other kinds of irrevocable trusts. Life insurance trusts, first to die, second to die variety. People who have special needs children have, needs to figure out a special needs trust. They're in here. What about a pooled trust? There's so many different trusts. These are the top 7. They explain how they work, the tax savings, the operation. If you've never done your planning, this is going to help you get started. Pick which one's right for you. 866-848-5699 or legalexchangeshow.com. You can download it right there. Again, 866-848-5699 or legalexchangeshow.com.
Todd, do you see instances where, I guess, people will use a combination of different vehicles for their estate planning because of different needs? Maybe, hey, they've got a revocable trust that eventually spits out a special needs trust for a child of theirs, or sometimes, do people ever use revocable trusts and irrevocable trusts in the same estate plan? Are those things possible or useful in situations?
Yeah, I think it's very important that when you're doing your planning, we first gather like all of your assets. And it's the amount of assets you have and the type of assets that you have that will dictate what kind of trust we do. So let's say we start with your foundation and it's a revocable trust and you're worth about $4 million, but you have a $2 million life insurance policy. Well, now all of a sudden I'm worth $6 million, and that changes the estate tax game here in Mass, at least, even though it might not affect you federally. So it changes the game here. So now what? Well, maybe it makes sense to take that $2 million life insurance policy and put it in an irrevocable life insurance trust, right? So I would put all the other assets in my revocable trust. And by the way, many kinds of revocable trusts with an estate worth well under $15 million, I'm probably putting together a joint revocable trust for this married couple hypothetical example. But that's great. It does avoid probate and reduce my taxes, but it's not going to quite eliminate them. Why? Because I got this $2 million policy. I move that into an irrevocable life insurance trust, and as long as I live 3 years, the death benefit will now be estate and income tax-free when I die, thereby reducing and helping to eliminate my estate taxes. So a combination of the two trusts work good in that arrangement. And yes, sometimes special needs trusts are built in to these revocable trusts as well.
Mr. Lutsky, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
This has been Ask Todd on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. Ask Todd with Todd Lutsky has been presented by Cushing & Dolan, serving Massachusetts and New England for more than 30 years, helping families with estate and tax planning, Medicaid planning, and probate law. Call 800-393-4001 or visit CushingDolan.com. The views expressed in this segment are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Armstrong Advisory does not provide any legal or tax advice. Please consult with your legal or tax advisor on such matters. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Still a bunch to get to as we continue through the show. We'll be previewing Nvidia's earnings and talking about the latest developments in the AI space. Also, going to be talking about what we're seeing in terms of wage growth. Who's benefiting these days? Who is falling behind? And then we're going to answer the question that's been on everyone's mind. Why do the baby boomers have more money than everyone else? All that and more is coming up in Hour 2 in just a bit.
Here at the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, we are committed to all students not only attending, but succeeding at school. Your presence is powerful. Share why you attend at doe.mass.edu.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
Are you over the age of 50? Want peace of mind and financial security for your family? Here's an important message to you from Senior Care USA. The average funeral now costs over $10,000. That leaves your loved ones the burden of paying your debts and funeral costs. Our plans start as low as $1 per day and will pay your family up to $30,000 to help pay for your funeral and other expenses. There are no medical exams. Your rates will never increase, and your plan cannot be canceled, regardless of your medical conditions, as long as you make your premium payments. Get up to $30,000 in final expense insurance. Call now for free information. Just answer a few simple questions and get approved right over the phone in just a few minutes. Call right now.
Call 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. That's 800-378-3818.
This is the Money Matters Radio Network. WBNW 1120 AM and W275CM FM. Concord, Boston. The Money Matters Radio Network.
Did you outgrow your timeshare and now you want out? But you can't. You can't sell it, and you can't get out of the contract. Imagine trying to get out of your mortgage. That's what a timeshare is. You can't just call up the bank and say, I don't want to pay it anymore. But we may be able to help you do just that. Listen, a timeshare maybe for you once was a great thing, but now you don't use it much. And they are not easy to get rid of. Plus, you do have to pay for it every month. Qualified timeshare owners can get out of their contract legally and permanently without ruining your credit or even filing bankruptcy. And imagine no more mortgage payment or fees. Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline qualification line now. It's free to learn more.
800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. That's 800-455-7967. Paid for by Timeshare Defense.
The holidays are just around the corner, so now's the time to plan your winter escape. Trade in the cold for sunshine, sea breezes, and island vibes in the U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean paradise. Whether it's a romantic retreat, a family celebration, or a solo recharge before the new year, St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John offer the ultimate warm weather getaway. Lounge on sun-drenched beaches, explore vibrant culture, and celebrate the holidays island style. No passport, no hassle, just warm weather, clear blue water, and unforgettable memories. This is where the stress melts away and you find yourself naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. Go to visitusvi.com and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com. The U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean paradise. Your holiday escape starts here at visitusvi.com.
Hi, this is Chuck Zodda from the Armstrong Advisory Group. If you have an IRA, it's critical to understand the tax rules that may affect your family as you plan for retirement. Current law requires most non-spouse beneficiaries to withdraw the full balance of an inherited IRA within 10 years, which may lead to higher taxes and reduced value over time. If beneficiary designations are outdated or incorrect, they could possibly override your will and change how your assets are distributed. That's why we're offering a new guide called Leaving a Lasting Legacy, a resource to help you better understand inherited IRAs and other legacy planning topics that could affect your future. Make an informed choice and take control of your plan. Call 800-393-4001 and ask for your free guide today. That's 800-393-4001 or request your copy online at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutsky from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with your Financial Exchange quick tip of the day. And today, we're talking about your new guide, Todd, Demystifying the Top 7 Estate Planning Trusts. Now, do you lose control if you transfer your assets to an irrevocable trust in order to protect them from long-term care expenses?
Well, you know, that's great when you mention that irrevocable trust, but limit it to the kind of trust where you're protecting it from the cost of long-term care. Because as the guide says, there's 7 different kinds of trust that we're trying to demystify. And there's also many kinds of irrevocable trusts out there, not just one type. So many people think there's just one type. But this particular type, where you're trying to protect it from the cost of long-term care expenses, the answer is no. You do not lose control over your assets. There's a whole spectrum of control with irrevocable trusts. And this one, you keep about 95% control. Like, you can live in your house, you can sell your house, you can buy another house, you can invest your money, you can manage your money, you can collect the income. Even the tax liability of these trusts are designed to be at your own rate. In other words, they are grantor trusts. You don't even pay any higher income taxes when you have this irrevocable trust. So this kind of trust, folks, you keep control and you protect your assets from the cost of long-term care.
Call right now for your free copy of Cushing & Dolan's comprehensive guide titled Demystifying the Top 7 Estate Planning Trusts. It will help you determine what type of trust is right for you and your family. Call 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request it from LegalExchangeShow.com.
The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Marc Fandetti. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Marc Fandetti.
Chuck, Mark, and Tucker with you here today, and markets are up modestly. The Dow's up about 121 points. The S&P's up 10. NASDAQ up 23, so anywhere from about 0.1% to 0.25% rise in the major U.S. indices. Not much happening in the bond market right now. 10-year Treasury is up 0.9 of a basis point to 4.265%. One thing that we have seen over the last couple of weeks is a steepening in the yield curve where shorter-term bonds are seeing their yields moving down a little bit, whereas the long end of the curve, the 30-year, is creeping back up towards 5% now. Could be any one of a number of things. I often don't like to ascribe, too much to what's going on with short-term treasury moves, because that's how you get into the problem where you say stuff last year like, yields must be moving up because of concerns about the amount of debt that's out there. And then when yields come down, you're like, did the debt picture get fixed? And no, it didn't. It's still basically the same. So I think that when we look at what we're seeing here, at least on the bond side, it's generally better just to say, hey, here's what's happening and let's see what continues, not, hey, this is definitively any one particular thing. In commodity markets, oil, West Texas Intermediate up 56 cents a barrel to 63.81. The AAA National Average for gas prices, by the way, did finally get out of that $3.10 to $3.20 per gallon range on a national basis, up 2.2 cents on the day today to $3.20 and 0.8 of a cent. This largely on the back of a refinery outage that is hitting the Midwest and pushing gas prices up there at the moment. So as an example, in Michigan right now, gas prices on average are $3.39 even. A week ago, they were $3.18 and 0.5 of a cent. So this is what is causing this shift right now. It's not anything dramatic. It's just, hey, there's a refinery outage that will end up being, fixed and things will get back to normal. But the Midwest is facing some higher fuel prices in the short term to the tune of an extra 10 to 15 cents per gallon at the moment. Gold is up $1.30 an ounce to $34.34 and 30 cents. I'm sure if it could trade, on individual cents, I'd love to get 34, but unfortunately it doesn't do that, and so we're stuck with 34.30. Big thing that's happening at 4:30, or not 4:30, but after the close today, we don't know the exact time. Nvidia reports their earnings, and this obviously is a potential market-moving event, given the fact that when you look at the Standard & Poor's 500, the S&P 500 as it's more commonly referred to, Nvidia right now is the biggest holding in it at just over 8% of the overall index. So for every dollar you put into the S&P 500 right now, 8 cents of it goes into Nvidia. Another 7 or so goes into Microsoft, 6 goes into Apple, 4 goes into Amazon, 3 goes into Meta. But Nvidia is the top dog, and so people pay attention when they report earnings, which is always about a month or so after everyone else does.
And they appear to be NVIDIA's chips do, because they power data centers, as the news articles in our stack of articles talks about extensively today. There are very serious people who think this phenomenon of data center building, related, of course, to NVIDIA and chip sales, is effectively powering the investment component of economic growth. So this is of great interest and of great importance to near-term growth, in the sense that it is the investment in data centers, that is a not insignificant part. How much, I don't know. That's not quantified here for the U.S., as far as I could tell. It's powering investment in the short term, so keeping GDP growing at a around or above trend rate. And in the long run, of course, it'll be a determinant. If AI, and this is a very big if, contributes to productivity to the extent that optimists think it could, it'll be a big contributor to long-term economic. And I don't share that, by the way, but I'll just sort of reiterating the company line here. Not our company, but the consensus. It's important for long-term economic growth too. So lots at stake here.
And I think the big questions with NVIDIA for tonight, and by the way, these are questions that generally, in the last 3 years, they've answered successfully. It's not to say that they will tonight or in subsequent quarters, but we've talked about this a lot where, NVIDIA's got some questions about, can they continue to do this or will this happen? And they've pretty much had answers for all of those over the last couple of years. The two big ones that are going to be out there, the first is China. Hey, in your previous quarter earnings, you indicated that you missed out on billions of dollars in revenue because you weren't able to sell to China. What's the situation with China now? Because the Trump administration has granted the export licenses for NVIDIA to export their H20 chips, but the Chinese government has pretty much said, hey, Chinese companies, stop buying this stuff. And so what is the reality in terms of the revenue that you're seeing, the demand that you're seeing? Talk to us about this, because just reading between the lines, it seems like things aren't going the way you would have liked them to, but headlines can be misleading. We know this. So I think that's part of it. The other piece is, hey, what are you seeing in terms of additional demand from non-traditional sources? And what I mean by that is the last 3 years, you can count on one hand the number of companies that really have been, driving the needle for Nvidia purchases. It's Microsoft, it's OpenAI, it's Meta, it's Google. Like those are the names that have been the driving forces. One of the things that we saw earlier this year, the Trump administration relaxed export controls of chips to a number of other countries, most notably to a lot of the Gulf states. You're talking Saudi Arabia, Oman, UAE, like places like that. And so I think that the question that is out there in my mind is, hey, these are countries that said that they were going to be big buyers of this stuff. Is any of that starting to show up now? Are you still supply constrained, so those are pushed out a couple more years? But what's in the pipeline? Because in terms of the growth from those Mag 7 companies, hey, it's still projected right now, but we've talked about how the economics of the data center construction might not support the same rate of increase that we've been seeing the last couple of years. And if that comes under pressure, do you have other companies to sell this stuff to?
Well, we know they can't become the whole economy, so there's an upper limit.
Right. We've talked about we are not going to be the United States of Nvidia.
I just meant like data centers, but yeah, that's an excellent shorthand way of putting it. Yeah,
it's like
probably not.
We're not all going.
Although I don't know. Have they made Trump an offer?
I mean,
for the right price.
The rebranding.
Yeah, I'm just talking about rebranding. I'm not talking about more substance.
I think it would be a tough putt. You'd have better luck with the United States of Amazon just because you don't have to change the initials then. I don't think either one's really going to fly, quite honestly. I think we're in a pretty good spot with the USA and the branding there. So I think in looking at this, it's one where there are questions that need to be answered. NVIDIA in the last few years has done a really good job of answering them, but the questions being asked now are different than the ones from the last couple of years, and that raises a little bit of intrigue here. So we'll see what we end up getting on this. But again, NVIDIA earnings are going to be after the bell today at the close. Let's take a quick break here. When we return, let's do a little bit of trivia, and then let's talk a little bit about just overall market performance this year so far and kind of what it means, what it doesn't mean right after this.
The Financial Exchange streams live on YouTube. Subscribe to our page and stay up to date on breaking business news all morning long. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network. If you're thinking about estate planning, trusts can be a powerful tool, but which one's right for you? Revocable, irrevocable, and many other options exist, each with different rules and tax implications. Call Cushing & Dolan at 866-848-5699 and get their free guide demystifying the top 7 estate planning trusts. That's 866-848-5699 or request it online at legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. We focus on the people returning from service, not their specific illness or injury. Our number one goal is to make sure our veterans have the necessary services they need, be it physical, emotional, or financial, so that their transition can be seamless. You can help our great American heroes as well by making a donation today by visiting dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Are you wondering where the economy is headed? GDP is growing, but tariffs, inflation, and job numbers are making headlines. Interest rates, housing costs, and policy changes are impacting all of us. Even AI is changing how markets move. Hi, this is Chuck Zodda from the Armstrong Advisory Group. We're hosting 2 financial seminars this fall to help you make sense of it all. Join us at Margaritaville Resort, Cape Cod on October 9th or at the Showcase Superlux in Chestnut Hill on October 16th. To reserve your seat, call 800-393-4001. We'll break down
down the economic trends, market risks, and smart strategies you need to plan for retirement and beyond. Diversification, preparation, and smart decisions are several of the keys to navigating uncertainty. Register today by calling 800-393-4001 or on our website, armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. The holidays are just around the corner, so now's the time to plan your winter escape. Trade in the cold for sunshine, sea breezes, and island vibes in the U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean paradise. Whether it's a romantic retreat, a family celebration, or a solo recharge before the new year, St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John offer the ultimate warm weather getaway. Lounge on sun-drenched beaches, explore vibrant culture, and celebrate the holidays island style. No passport, no hassle, just warm weather, clear blue water, and unforgettable memories. This is where the stress melts away and you find yourself naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. Go to visitusvi.com and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com. The U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean paradise. Your holiday escape starts here at visitusvi.com.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
Cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of women,
taking the lives of 1 in 3.
That's more than all forms of cancer combined.
For too long, heart disease and stroke have taken the lives of the women we love.
But we're not giving up.
Because we have something better.
Stronger, more powerful.
We have each other.
When we come together and go red,
the more power we have against our greatest health threat.
Visit goredforwomen.org today to learn more.
Hear the Financial Exchange every day from 11 to noon on SiriusXM's Business Radio Channel 132. Keep it here for the latest business and financial news and the trends on Wall Street. The Financial Exchange is now live on SiriusXM's Business Radio Channel 132. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Time for trivia here on the Financial Exchange, and our look at the famous participants of World War II continues. Many of the most famous baseball players of the era interrupted their careers to serve their country. So, trivia question today. Which Boston Red Sox legend served 3 years in World War II as a naval aviator? Once again, which Boston Red Sox legend served 3 years in World War II as a naval aviator? Be the 9th person today to text us at 617-362-1385 with the correct answer. And you win a Financial Exchange Show t-shirt. Once again, the 9th correct response to text us to the number 617-362-1385 will win that t-shirt. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
Good. A nice piece from CNBC. S&P 500 index investors have been rewarded so far in 2025, while experts say it may be time to diversify. There's nothing like trying to market time based on how the index has done over the first 8 months of the year. That's obviously got to be really reliable here. I'll just quote here just because this is just, again, kind of garbage-orific. Experts say investors would be wise to watch the risks before pursuing an investment strategy concentrated in the large-cap company-focused S&P 500 index, which represents about 80% of market capitalization. Okay, there's nothing crazy there so far. We've talked about not having all eggs in one basket. I got it. Our advice for people who are looking at their performance on a 1 or 3 year horizon is no, we don't think the set it and forget it S&P 500 strategy is the right strategy. Okay, even that's, kind of reasonable here when you talk about, like, yeah, you don't know that this thing is always going to go up or not. I've talked at length about how if you polled investors from like 1990 through 2005, they'd say, why am I even invested in the S&P 500? Emerging markets is where it's at. I've got to have more in EM. And in the subsequent 20 years, that has just not been the case. But then you get into this kind of stuff here, which is, the S&P 500 had a good second quarter where profits and margins in the aggregate expanded, but the remaining 393 companies outside of the Mag 7 only had 3% profit growth. Quote, that's not a healthy market. That's a very narrow market. And when looking at the S&P today, it's important to realize that what you're buying now versus what you're buying 10 years ago has changed. And it's basically saying, look, you're buying, AI today, which is true. But who's to say that the AI bubble, or who's to say it's even a bubble? Who's to say it doesn't have another 2, 3, 4, or 5 years to run, and that this is the exact moment to...
Can you not do that?
What was that?
It just completely blew into the microphone.
Is there a hurricane out there?
You know what it was?
What was
There was
that?
an air pocket on one side of my mouth. It was contained, though.
If you want me to stop talking, just let me know.
Could not have been more direct into the
Then
microphone.
I pushed on the other side, and it came out an unexpected part of the orifice. Tucker, I'm not a radio professional, Tucker. Maybe I need retraining on
wear the headphones and everything's solved.
Well, then I'd have to hear that, though. Who wants to hear that?
Not me. In any case, I guess what I'm getting at here is, why is now the time to exercise caution around the S&P 500 as opposed to a year ago or 2 years or 3? And the other piece is, hey, if you do make a change right now, are you content with the idea that you could be wrong, because this thing could still keep going up and be the dominant, market index for the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years? We have no idea.
Yeah, the market cap weighted, by that I mean the method that weights stocks according to the value of all their shares. Nvidia is the biggest holding in the S&P, bigger than Microsoft, Apple, and some of the other giants, because its shares are worth more. I know everybody knows that, and it sounds like common sense, but it was not obvious before the 1970s, when theory and technology came together and allowed investment banks, they weren't known as investment banks then, but allowed a bank to put together an S&P 500 portfolio that was based on a theory that had been developed about a decade before. Maybe you know the name Bill Sharp. He won a Nobel Prize. You may have heard Sharp ratio.
He has a ratio named after himself.
That's right. It's very straightforward. It's so simple. It's brilliant. But anyway, I don't want to get sidetracked on Sharp and all of his contributions to finance. The point is, he pointed out that the market cap weighted portfolio should be every investor's starting point for theoretical reasons that aren't entirely obvious, but once you learn a little bit about them, they make perfect sense. So you, by default, you start with the S&P 500 or the Russell 1000, which is more purely market cap weighted and a little better diversified. And almost by definition, when a sector has a big run up, the index is going to be driven by that sector. In the past generation or two, it's been technology. There were times when it was other sectors like industrials and whatever the sector that embodied chemical companies would have been generations ago. Anyway, my point is, the S&P, after a big run-up, always looks overvalued, and it's epically overvalued in historical terms right now. Slightly different matter. And the sector that has propelled that run-up always raises concerns about overconcentration. So all these arguments to me sound a lot like arguments that have been made in past eras about the technology and other sectors. Sometimes they've turned out to be good warnings that stocks were indeed overvalued, got ahead of themselves. But like you said, Chuck, you never know until after the fact. And I'll just reiterate, you should always start as a default. You may tilt away from it if you think that your conviction about another segment of the market is compelling enough, but start by default with a market cap weighted index and go from there. And this is why 401k plans typically default you into something that weights by market cap, because that's viewed as the most prudent way to invest.
And look, the whole idea of, again, valuation is, a tool to know when to move into one thing or another. All I got to tell you, look, You take a look at emerging markets and European equities for the last 15 years, they've been cheap relative to their U.S. counterparts.
Mm-hmm.
They've also been cheap for a reason. There has not been very much growth in the equity markets in Europe or in emerging markets in the aggregate.
Yeah, and EM emerging markets are riskier. They should go ahead.
Yeah, EM, like you also get into then things like, jurisdictional risk, which is, hey, does the ruling person in country XYZ on the other side of the world suddenly decide they don't like the laws and they, change the rules, and now your investment is worthless because the lights were turned off one day and the guy didn't like it or something like that.
And this is why it's so curious that markets are so far responding with complacency to threats to Fed independence. One of the problems with emerging markets historically, and the reason they get a lower risk premium, a lower valuation, is that their policy is less soundly conducted than ours, and that includes monetary policy. If we're going to be reverting to some sort of third world-like monetary policy, and that's what you get when you put it all in the hands of one guy, you could say you like that arrangement or don't, but you can't have both that and very high valuations reflective of institutional stability at the same time.
Taking a look at markets as we head towards the bottom of the hour, the Dow is currently up 135 points. The S&P is up 11. The NASDAQ is up 22. So kind of like what we've seen all day, just a holding pattern as we wait for Nvidia earnings after the bell. Bond market with not much movement either. 10-year Treasury is up 0.3 of a basis point. Again, the bond traders are just sitting there saying, like, why did I wake up in the morning for this? There's nothing for me to do right now. It's
given the
last week in August, a lot of people away and stuff like that.
Good point.
It's a quiet week in general. Quick break here. We've got the trivia answer in Wall Street Watch when we return.
Bringing the latest financial news straight to your radio every day. It's the Financial Exchange on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. A trust isn't just a document. It's a powerful tool that can help protect your assets from the nursing home and even reduce or eliminate estate taxes. Cushing & Dolan are leaders in elder law, estate planning, and asset protection. This month, they're offering a free guide called Demystifying the Top 7 Estate Planning Trusts. This guide breaks down the most common types of trusts, explains the pros and cons of each, and helps you understand which might be right for you and your family. Trusts come with different rules, benefits, and tax treatment, and choosing the wrong one could cost you. Learning the differences now can help you make smarter decisions for your future and your loved ones. Trusts are a critical part of any well-designed estate plan, but they can be complex. Don't guess your way through it. Get the facts first. Call Cushing & Dolan now at 866-848-5699 to request your free copy, or visit LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. The holidays are just around the corner, so now's the time to plan your winter escape. Trade in the cold for sunshine, sea breezes, and island vibes in the U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean paradise. Whether it's a romantic retreat, a family celebration, or a solo recharge before the new year, St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John offer the ultimate warm weather getaway. Lounge on sun-drenched beaches, explore vibrant culture, and celebrate the holidays island style. No passport, no hassle, just warm weather, clear blue water, and unforgettable memories. This is where the stress melts away and you find yourself naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. Go to visitusvi.com and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com. The U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean paradise. Your holiday escape starts here at visitusvi.com.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and we've got a guide available this month titled Leaving a Lasting Legacy. Mike, one of the things that people have to navigate now is figuring out which accounts to leave to different beneficiaries. As an example, if someone has two children, one in a high tax bracket, one in a low tax bracket, how does that potentially impact who receives which assets?
Well, let's call it out. First and foremost, most commonly, people just divide equally. And there's nothing wrong with that. I get the fairness argument with all of this. But taking your example here, let's imagine we have one person with an average effective tax rate of 10% and another one with 25%. Obviously, there's going to be a massive difference in terms of what is left over with a traditional IRA, for example, for that person in the 25% bracket versus the 10. And so with the new rules over the last few years when it comes to requiring those accounts to be emptied over the course of 10 years in most cases, especially on the retirement account front, there's a lot of different stuff that can be looked at there. That doesn't even take into account things like non-retirement accounts, Chuck, right?
Sure.
So for those, you have a different set of rules that applies to those, generally pretty preferential tax treatment. And so you can be really intentional about how you leave the biggest legacy possible to your heirs as a whole.
Folks, the guide is titled Leaving a Lasting Legacy. The way to request it is by calling 800-393-4001. Again, the guide is called Leaving a Lasting Legacy, and the way to request it is by calling 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Time now for Wall Street Watch. A complete look at what's moving markets so far today, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Well, we are only a few hours away from a significant earnings report from chipmaker and AI giant Nvidia after today's closing bell, and markets are narrowly higher. Right now, the Dow is up by 0.3% or 128 points higher. S&P 500 is up nearly 0.2%. NASDAQ up 0.1% or 21 points higher. Russell 2000 up over 0.5%. 10-year Treasury yield up 1 basis point, now at 4.269%. And crude oil up about 0.5% higher, trading at $63.58 a barrel. Coal's jumping nearly 18% after the retailer surpassed street earnings and revenue expectations, despite its sales declining in its ongoing search for a new CEO. Kohl's also reported a better than anticipated full-year sales guidance. Another retailer, Abercrombie & Fitch, also reported second quarter results where its sales growth slowed. During the quarter, Abercrombie sales slumped 5%, while comparable sales dropped 11%. However, sales from its Hollister brand grew 19% in the quarter. Abercrombie up over 1%. Meanwhile, CNBC reported that controlling shareholder of Canada Goose, Bain Capital, received bids to take the company private, valuing the retailer at about $1.35 billion. Canada Goose shares are jumping about 15% higher. Elsewhere, Okta shares climbing 3% after the identity security company posted higher quarterly results and raised its annual guidance. Database platform developer MongoDB surging 33% after it beat analysts' estimates and raised its annual outlook. And after controversy surrounding its new logo, Cracker Barrel reverted back to its original old-timer logo. That stock rebounding 8% today. I'm Tucker Silva, and that is Wall Street Watch. And in the previous segment, we asked you the trivia question, which Boston Red Sox legend
served 3 years in World War II as a naval aviator. That would, of course, be Ted Williams. Joseph from Yarmouthport, Mass. is our winner today, taking home the Financial Exchange Show t-shirt. And we play trivia every day here in the Financial Exchange. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
Mark, we got a piece here from Bloomberg Opinion. It's titled, Why Boomers Have More Money Than Everyone Else. Well, why do they, Mark?
It's probably what you would expect, Chuck. We joked a little bit about it during the break. They own homes. They bought their homes at relatively cheap prices, and I know they're if you're in that age group, you're scowling when you hear this. You earned it, and the fact that homes have gotten a lot more expensive relative to incomes and every other measure is not because you drove the price up. Of course, it's just the nature of a growing economy bumping up against natural limits on some things like housing supply when we zone the way that we do, et cetera. So you bought a house at 2 times median income. Now it's 4 or 5 times. You bought stocks for most of your career at a PE. We were talking about this in the last segment. And by PE, I just mean valuation, specifically price to earnings in this example, though you could insert other variables in there and come to the same conclusion. You bought stocks relatively cheaply, and they've run up by a lot. So baby boomers and older Gen Xers, to an extent, have been the beneficiaries of rapidly appreciating asset prices. And maybe there are some cultural factors there, too. That maybe they were better savers, didn't have as much student debt, for example, though the researchers, I think, who conducted the study referred to in this article did not find that student debt, if memory serves. It's been a couple weeks since I looked at this, but if memory serves, student debt was not a big factor. But there may be other little factors explaining the relative difference in, say, net worth at this point in their lives of boomers versus other generations. Now,
the other thing is that, and I come back to this quite often, if you looked at all the literature written on millennials 10 years ago, in 2015, it was, millennials will never amount to anything financially. They're well behind their parents and Gen X in terms of where they are at the same point in time. They're not buying houses. They're not doing anything. They're just, millennials who are avocado toasting their way through life. And in the last 10 years then, equity markets went nuts, housing markets went nuts, incomes for millennials, moved up pretty significantly. And now you get the pieces talking about, hey, millennials actually have, a higher rate of home ownership at the same age than their parents did. And millennial wealth has caught up in this and that. And gosh, what a difference 10 years makes on this stuff. And so I think that all we get at when we look at these studies and these pieces, they're snapshots in time. They don't say anything about what got you here, which you've outlined a little bit, but they also don't say anything about where you're going and whether or not the trends that got you there are going to continue. And, I think that ultimately when we look at this, and look, the other thing to point out here, even amongst the baby boomers, there are vast disparities in wealth. Guarantee you, there are plenty of baby boomers that are listening to our show right now saying, Chuck, I'm, a boomer. I'm not comfortable financially. I'm struggling to make ends meet. There are plenty that fall into that category as well. So I think that when we look at this in the aggregate, we also, kind of lose some things here in terms of the actual meaning of this. But I don't know. I caution people to read too much into this because, if just to use the boomers as an example, if you ask the boomers back in, 1979, hey, how have things gone for you financially, in adulthood? Most of them are probably like, yeah, this whole economics thing kind of sucks. Inflation's been high, jobs have been hard to get, gas prices have been high. The first 10 years that boomers were in the workforce were not exactly an easy time for them. Were the subsequent 40 a nice tailwind that they could ride? Absolutely, but again, these are just snapshots in time. It doesn't mean that those trends are going to continue.
Yeah, and if our institutions continue to deteriorate, and change is a better word. Maybe you like these changes. We talk a lot about Fed independence, and I keep bringing it up because it's critical to the growth of to the volatility of, and therefore the growth of the economy. These old trends that we like to extrapolate from, those trends are the product of the conditions that prevailed since the end of the Second World War. Trade liberalization, Fed independence, stability, rule of law prevailing generally. If we're switching to more of a personalist type approach to being governed, and maybe you like that, maybe you don't, I don't think you can assert, if we make fundamental changes to the rules governing the operation of our economy, that it will grow at the same rate. And I don't think, based on the experience of other countries, you can credibly make the argument that it will grow faster, because that's not happened historically when, for example, a politician controls the money supply.
Well, believe it or not, the holidays are just around the corner, so now's the time to plan your winter escape. Trade in the cold for sunshine, sea breezes, and island vibes in the U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean paradise. Whether it's a romantic retreat, a family celebration, or a solo recharge before the new year, St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John offer the ultimate warm weather getaway. Lounge on sun-drenched beaches, explore vibrant culture, and celebrate the holidays island style. No passport, no hassle, just warm weather, clear blue water, and unforgettable memories. This is where the stress melts away, and you find yourself naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. Go to visitusvi.com and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com. The U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean paradise. Your holiday escape starts here at visitusvi.com.
Mark, I am a lazy avocado toast eating millennial, so I was too young to be gainfully employed during the tech bubble when that was going on. But I read this piece here in the Wall Street Journal, and I wanted to get your opinion on it because it talks about how you have these people in their early 20s that have effectively kind of come of age with generative AI, and they are getting these big job offers, not for, programming generative AI platforms and things like that, but just because they know how to use AI and are able to use it in a job, and it becomes almost, a specialist role that they have, AI specialist working for a bank or something like that. Yeah. Did you see something similar popping up during the tech bubble where you had, like, search engine specialists or, things like that popped up at companies? Because I'm just wondering if this happens in every technological cycle. In the 60s, was there,
Okay, now you're insulting me.
I know I'm insulting you, but
but here we go.
But I'm going to continue. It's, hey, did we have, vacuum tube, special? I know you did then because that was like the only job, but I guess that when it comes to this, is this unique to this cycle, do you think? Or if we see
the
this
only
in other
parallel,
ones?
First of all, it's a testament to how much companies are fumbling with integrating AI into existing workflows, and actually
they don't get it.
And very few are making money. We talked about, Mike Armstrong and I talked about a study done by researchers at MIT yesterday that concluded that fewer than 5% of companies that have spent a lot of money and time on AI have actually been able to use it profitably. The rest are just kind of screwing around with it, finding applications that might be interesting, but they're having trouble integrating them into their software and workflow. And that's understandable. We've all encountered this. So to answer your question, the only parallel that comes to mind is Microsoft Excel skills were at one time toutable skills. And they would be solicitations would include them as a qualification that were being looked for. You see that sometimes now, and it seems quaint because you don't have to code in Microsoft Excel or any Microsoft application. Of course, that's the whole point. It's all wrapped for you.
Sure.
So that's the only analog I can think of to that period, Chuck. I'm sure there were jobs for which I was not applying or interested in, jobs, for example, outside of finance, where coding skills in Fortran or C++ or whatever language you were proficient in at the time were more highly prized. But no, this seems odd because this is just looking for power users of ChatGPT. Help us because we have no idea what we're doing. We're all in our 50s like me and are getting staler and more demented by the day. No offense to my fellow millennials, but we are Gen Xers, but we are. I need to hire a kid who actually gets this stuff. This smacks of that to me. It's a little pathetic.
Like in the 1970s, did you have, hey, we need a photocopier expert to come in?
Yeah, right.
You know, like something like that.
Somebody who can work this Xerox machine with all the buttons.
Here's the thing that's wild, actually. There have been a bunch of studies done of companies and like the problems that they have with Gen Zers. And part of the problem is, hey, they might be really skilled at the new tech, but they can't use things like photocopiers. Like they walk into the room with it and they're like, what do you want me to do with this?
Yes, it's very manual.
Which I get.
I
understand. Like we there's only so much knowledge that you can pick up as a kid. It would be like if you asked someone from the 1960s, hey, can you drive the horse and buggy for me? No, like, what do you mean drive the horse and buggy? Is it stick or is it automatic? You know, like, it's just, you didn't use it, you know? It's just a different thing. Let's take a quick break here, and when we return, we'll do a little bit of stack roulette.
The Financial Exchange streams live on YouTube. Like our page and stay up to date on breaking business news all morning long. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Are you wondering where the economy is headed? GDP is growing, but tariffs, inflation, and job numbers are making headlines. Interest rates, housing costs, and policy changes are impacting all of us. Even AI is changing how markets move. Hi, this is Chuck Zodda from the Armstrong Advisory Group. We're hosting 2 financial seminars this fall to help you make sense of it all. Join us at Margaritaville Resort, Cape Cod on October 9th or at the Showcase Superlux in Chestnut Hill on October 16th. To reserve your seat, call 800-393-4001. We'll break down the economic trends, market risks, and smart strategies you need to plan for retirement and beyond. Diversification, preparation, and smart decisions are several of the keys to navigating uncertainty. Register today by calling 800-393-4001 or on our website, armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. If you're thinking about estate planning, trusts can be a powerful tool, but which one's right for you? Revocable, irrevocable, and many other options exist, each with different rules and tax implications. Call Cushing & Dolan at 866-848-5699 and get their free guide demystifying the top 7 estate planning trusts. That's 866-848-5699 or request it online at legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
This is Michael Valila, Adjutant of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. We focus on the people returning from service, not their specific illness or injury. Our number one goal is to make sure our veterans have the necessary services they need, be it physical, emotional, or financial, so that their transition can be seamless. You can help our great American heroes as well by making a donation today by visiting dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
The holidays are just around the corner, so now's the time to plan your winter escape. Trade in the cold for sunshine, sea breezes, and island vibes in the U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean paradise. Whether it's a romantic retreat, a family celebration, or a solo recharge before the new year, St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John offer the ultimate warm weather getaway. Lounge on sun-drenched beaches, explore vibrant culture, and celebrate the holidays island style. No passport, no hassle, just warm weather, clear blue water, and unforgettable memories. This is where the stress melts away and you find yourself naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. Go to visitusvi.com and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com. The U.S. Virgin Islands, America's Caribbean paradise. Your holiday escape starts here at visitusvi.com.
Are you over the age of 50? Want peace of mind and financial security for your family? Here's an important message to you from Senior Care USA. The average funeral now costs over $10,000. That leaves your loved ones the burden of paying your debts and funeral costs. Our plans start as low as $1 per day and will pay your family up to $30,000 to help pay for your funeral and other expenses. There are no medical exams. Your rates will never increase, and your plan cannot be canceled, regardless of your medical medical conditions as long as you make your premium payments. Get up to $30,000 in final expense insurance. Call now for free information. Just answer a few simple questions and get approved right over the phone in just a few minutes. Call right now.
Call 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. That's 800-378-3818.
The Financial Exchange is now available every day from 11 to noon on SiriusXM's Business Radio Channel 132. Stay informed about the latest from Wall Street, fiscal policy, and breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is live on SiriusXM's Business Radio Channel 132. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Now's a great time to register for the DAV 5K taking place Saturday, November 8th at Fort Independence on Castle Island. The race has sold out each of the past 4 years, and slots are continuing to fill up quickly, so don't delay. Visit dav5k.boston and reserve your spot, or join our team here at the Financial Exchange by registering under Team TFE. That's Saturday, November 8th for this year's DAV 5K. Sign up now at dav5k.boston.
All right, Marc, what do you got for me for Stack Roulette today?
The Chicago Fed every week calculates a National Financial Conditions Index. It's pretty comprehensive. It covers equity markets, debt markets, the banking system, money markets. So a pretty comprehensive index, so a single number that gives you a sense of how conducive overall capital market and broader economic conditions are for, say, businesses who want to borrow money to expand. This index, and the number itself, minus 0.56, is not really meaningful, other than it might be helpful to know that negative numbers are actually good. The more negative, the better. The more it's very counterintuitive. It means looser. It means financial conditions are looser. Again, easier for businesses that need it to get their hands on capital. This index, as you would expect, because other markets, markets that underlie it that we do talk about a lot, stock and bond markets are more or less giving the same signal. This index is at its most accommodative, if you will, so loosest in terms of financial conditions reading of this whole business cycle. Now, part of that is because markets expect the Fed to cut short-term interest rates when it meets next month. Market prices obviously reflect that, but it's been low for quite some time, so not clear that beyond a modest cut to maybe act as insurance against potential softening of the labor market, that the Fed's going to need to do much more than that, that is, ease modestly next month. Whether they actually do more is obviously now more a function of political considerations and pressure than the state of the real economy.
I want to talk a little bit about this piece that Tucker put in the stack today. It's called Splat Goes the Slop Bowl. The subheader is why fast casual chains like Chipotle and Cava are losing out to sit-down spots like Chili's. And we've talked a little bit about this, just the value is not there when it comes to Chipotle versus a Chili's or Applebee's. It's, hey, I can sit down at a Chili's or Applebee's and get a meal that is the same cost or cheaper than Chipotle, and I've got, a waiter or waitress bringing me water, and, I'm sitting down and not having to just, stand at this big industrial counter and this and that. We've talked about that. I want to talk about this this phrasing here, though, that goes into it. Tucker, before the last month or so, had you heard the term slop bowl?
Oh yeah, I've referred to it as a slop bowl. Yeah, just a pile of slop you just throw down in 10 minutes. Yeah,
just because it's all the stuff mixed together in a little bowl is kind of where it comes from.
Yep, exactly.
I guess what I'm trying to figure out is when this became kind of a thing in terms of the terminology, because I
heard it over the past year, I'd say.
So you think it kind of coincides with this? It's people getting fed up with hey, I'm paying $20 for slop is the idea.
Much. Yeah.
I struggle with it. I still think that the value thing is better, but I'm just curious how language evolves on this stuff, because before this, you go back a few years, And this stuff was being talked about as like, oh, like it's higher quality than what you get at, a fast food place.
Is.
And now we're just referring to it as slop, which I think is interesting to me. And it's kind of a what came first, the slop or the egg, And in this case, they're kind of coincidental, but I just find it interesting how the language evolves on this stuff because...
Not appetizing at all.
I have no problem with the terminology. I still get a slop bowl probably once a week.
But it doesn't make your mouth water.
The counter to this is if you said, hey, Chuck, you want a sloppy Joe right now? I'd say, you're darn right I do. Yeah, I'll take a sloppy Joe right now. Thank you very much.
I don't know who serves a sloppy Joe around.
Not many
these
people
parts.
anymore. It's kind of sad. It's the demise of a great American legend, in my opinion. Dow Jones is up 103 points. S&P's up 13. NASDAQ up 41. All eyes still focused on Nvidia this afternoon. We're done for the day. We'll see you tomorrow recapping Nvidia earnings.